If any of that disturbs you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. Invite them to the weird orgy that is this platform. Okay. We riot ideas like the Dickens. And then we mindgasm all over each other. It's fantastic. It's like looking at some really well-made spaghetti. Just shooting ropes of excellence and reaching for the stars, like I said. Really aiming up, so to speak. That's what I came here to say. Didn't think I was going to put it that way, but I guess I had to double down. You know, I've been practicing that. Here, I've got some homework for you. I want you to find a good episode of Game Grumps. There are a couple of comedians who have they have a show on the YouTubes. It's free to watch. And they play video games, but the actual thing that they're doing, yeah, they talk about the games a lot, and sometimes they do well, but typically they do poorly. It's mostly about cracking jokes and telling stories and having a good time for the mirth of it. And their dynamic is, more often than not, Dan, the tall, lanky Jewish one, not that they have face cams or anything, you don't really know what they look like. I'm gonna try to circumvent this a little bit. How am I gonna, You know, I've never gone this way. Let's just go this way for a second. Maybe this is where the run ends up. Who cares anyway, right? Whew, stomach stitch happening. I did eat a lot before this run. Maybe that has something to do with it. I also drank half a gallon of water this morning. Actually, more like 3/4. Whew. Because I was thirsty. I'm still thirsty. If you've got a beer in your hand, drink that for me. If you've got some tea or some water, drink it down for your boy out here roasting like a tiny beige raisin in the California sun. I was saying something. I completely forget what it was. Oh yeah, I have homework for you. Watch some Game Grumps. Watch a small collection of episodes. Dedicate an hour to this. They have old stuff, they have new stuff. Episodes of all lengths. They've been doing this for 10 years. Most of the episodes are still up. God, Jesus. I keep finding more construction wherever I go. Fuck. How far can I get off the beaten path to get the fuck away from all this construction? I forgot about this. I knew it. I knew what was going on this road, and I forgot. Or just didn't find it. Of course, I had no idea where I was going to run today until I started putting feet in front of other feet. All mine, of course. Anyway, the dynamic is this between the two Game Grumps. Dan is the straight man, typically. He plays the slightly more mild-mannered guy. Not always, but often. And Aaron's the other one. He's a Floridian. He's also very tall, but he's a little on the chubbier side. Big old goatee. And he kind of looks like a mole to me. Anyway, he's just always ribbing and jabbing Dan. And of course, as time went on, Dan started joining in the fun more and started ribbing and chiding and all that stuff to Aaron too. But a part of that dynamic is that Aaron's personality is so... Sometimes I have such a hard time with it. Other times, it just sets me up for the giggles, for the giggle fits. Aaron is characterized by a personality type that is all about committing to the bit. To the extent that, and they do improv comedy, and they do live shows and stuff. So this is probably born out of the vein of their improv comedy, of which Game Grumps itself as a channel is a practice of. It really is them just kind of sharpening their blades. But as a part of that, one thing that Aaron will do is he'll just run in on a conversation like a contrarian, make a completely contrarian claim on whatever the hell they were talking about. He'll say something completely and totally absurd. Often the more absurd the better. And then he'll just proceed to die on that hill. Sometimes Dan is just like, dude, I cannot go another round with you on this. You're trying to tell me that X, Y, and Z, but clearly the sky is blue, you fuck. Can we stop? Can we just move on? Anything but this conversation. I literally feel like you're... I literally feel like you're trying to kill me by gaslighting my head to the point where it actually explodes. And then Aaron's like, no, but it's fun. And half the time they'll just non sequitur their way out of it completely unabashedly and just laugh it off, because that's a part of comedy. Set it up, exaggerate, get the payoff, or don't. Laugh it off, move on. How good is that? And I've been practicing that as well. The reason why I just used such inflammatory language back there in the construction zone regarding mind orgies and stuff was because I was feeling a little bit self-conscious. I had just opened up and become very, very vulnerable with all y'all. And I started thinking, okay, who's this podcast for? Okay. Who am I overly self-censoring? Am I trying to please everybody who's in my audience? Because despite the fact that the Game Grumps do play these games in circles, sometimes to the point where I become nauseous and exhausted with them, and I gotta take a break, even though 90% of the time I end up laughing. Like, they also, one reason why they have, whatever it is, 5 million subscribers, I think, is that they do follow the trends of their community. They talk to their community people. They do answer questions sometimes. They have people who read the comments and give them feedback, and they have a lot of meetings about where to take things and what the feeling of the vibe of the channel is and how to change it and how to work with YouTube enough. For example, they have adopted a practice of, as often as possible, covering up any swearing they do the first minute of every episode, because YouTube doesn't tell you these things, but the algorithm does adapt and evolve, because the people who make it, they're trying to sell things and get ad revenues and keep the business, keep the money coming in. So those motivations mean that the algorithm that checks to see if you're worthy of monetization, it evolves over time. And it evolved to the point where it will now demonetize you if you swear in the first minute of your episodes, apparently, so they say. So they're very responsive and reactive to their audiences as well. Even these comedians here on the fringe of the spoken word, contrarians, and they're keeping company with people who say dangerous, often unlovable, difficult, and adversarial and sloppy and brash and sometimes arrogant material, just to commit to the bit, just to explore parts of being a human being that you just don't do that much at this point in society, in the world. I say you, I mean me, as always. I self-censor like a mofo 99% of the time. I learned to do that from work and school. And family. People, basically. And yet, acknowledge that I'm not out here to hurt anybody. So, sometimes I need to just dig my toes in, clench my teeth, and say the stupid thing that I wanted to say. Or even pull further down the well than I had drawn the first obscenity or the first controversial thing that I offered the conversation. That's why I do it. That's part of the reason why. Another part of the reason is I'm not perfect, and I do have old, outdated modalities in my brain pan, rattling around and gathering dust and rust, and unfortunately oftentimes turning malignant and infecting healthy parts of my mind and emotional strata. In order to clean that stuff out, you just have to be willing to go there. And it's not the same when there's no stakes. The amount of stuff that I keep to myself means that, and the way that I live my life, means that up until this last year, I've just been playing all these low stakes, banal conversation games with people. We all just kind of agreed we were going to do it. Ooh, I just had an idea. I know where this road goes. And I happen to be on the side of the road that has a functional crosswalk infrastructure. We've been on this road once before. But I'm going to go further this time. That's what we're going to do with this run. Good. Good. I love when stuff comes to me. But again, for stuff to come to me that I can use, that I can cure myself of my illnesses with, I just got to be willing to shoot for the stars, man. Sometimes from the hip. Sometimes I'm going to hit my target. Most of the time I'm going to miss. But every time I'm aiming, and I'm doing my best. Particularly when I do the podcast. And weirdly enough, sometimes that's going to look like me cursing when I wouldn't have otherwise cursed, or making lewd references when I wouldn't have otherwise done that. Like if, whoever you are, if you and I were hanging out together, of course I'm going to be watching myself, not to go too far. But this is the internet. I've got to use it for its potential. One of the best things about the internet is that you can really put some shit out there, and the stakes are higher because it stays. In theory. So there's stakes now. So I get to feel like I'm having a living conversation with high stakes with people that I want to develop with, people that I want to work with. After all, we're cultivating an audience here. If you don't like what I'm saying, get the fuck out. How many podcasts have I turned away from? How many people do I no longer talk to? Particularly in the I'm tired, I want to go home sector of life. Oh my God. Every conversation, back in the low stakes days, last year and every year before, 90% of what was said, in 90% of those conversations, I feel cracks forming in my molars just from contemplating the toxicity and the entropy, the entropic, not good entropy like fungal digestion of material at the decomposer level so that it can be reused in the food chain. I'm talking about people, just willingly succumbing to a comatose existence. Okay, maybe not willingly. And okay, I'm not giving them nearly enough credit. I'm mischaracterizing everyone I've ever met, essentially, wildly. But again, we're committing to the bit here, right? So instead of backpedaling any further, I'm going to continue with my point and make it quickly so we can move on. which is that those conversations, 90% of them, 90% of the people, 90% of the material always came back to I'm tired and I want to go home. And I'm a huge fan of at least a little bit of what Laird Hamilton says. And I've said it before on Ride Along with Rum Man. But one thing that he said that really got me was, I'm not hanging out with those people. I'm not surrounding myself with those people because it affects me. It just does. It's like, picture this. You know, at home, I have an office chair. I paid $150 for it a few years ago. It creaks like the dickens, but it's very comfortable in a lot of ways. It's also heavy, and I think I'm gonna get rid of it. I haven't been using it for like a month now, even once, because I can just sit on my bed. And I got this cool, I don't know what it was, or what shop it was from. It was from a shoe shop or something. It was like this big stool. It's basically like a really long chair with no arms that's padded. It's kind of, the dimensions are kind of like the thing that you sit on when you're going to play piano, only it's really well padded and really light and easy to move. Really easy to move, which is great because there's like, I don't have a lot of space in my room. So, and I attend to all parts of my room for different reasons. I've got a writing thing going on, I've got a gaming thing going on, I've got a sleeping thing going on. Whew, all kinds of things. And and I employed the hell out of that bar stool thing. And so it doesn't have a back. So guess what I do? I watch myself is what I do. What do you think I was gonna say? What am I doing 99% of the time at this point in my life? Straining to keep my eyes open and on me so that I know when I'm doing some weird stuff. And when I don't, you know, I forgive myself and we move on, much like right now. So what do? I watch myself and I watch my body slowly crumble as the night wears on, and I fight it. Actually, it's a good fractal of my, it's a good metaphor that I can draw to my actual introspection process these days. The watching of myself feels a lot like the sitting in the chair stool thing, because I'll notice when I'm slouching, because you can't not. My television is relatively high up and relatively large, so if I'm slouching, I have to actually crane my neck to see the top of the screen, right? But it doesn't feel good. And it aches. It just aches differently than if I pull my legs a little bit together and do what my yoga instructors told me so many times and just kind of breathe up, create some length, try and point the crown of my head in the heavens as much as possible. And then I slouch, and then I watch, and then I correct, and we move on, much like now. Only when you work in a grocery store, where in order to operate and receive the money, you have to ergonomically compromise yourself, either by standing still for a long period of time, or by kneeling and reaching for something that's many feet away that you cannot do with proper alignment. Within a time frame, mind you, always a time frame. So you can't do it thoughtfully, or the impetus is not to do it thoughtfully unless you happen to be disciplined or a martial artist or something. The impetus is get it the hell done so you can do the next thing haphazardly. But that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about general malaise. We were talking ergonomics. And I was going to draw a tie from ergonomics to the Laird Hamilton statement. These conversations are the spiritual, emotional, and word-like conscious self versions at the same time of A, I'm tired, I want to go home, and B, I'm choosing the office chair, and I'm choosing the backrest, and I'm choosing the fast Slack job, the fast, sloppy job, and ultimately, to put the ergonomic tinge on it, everybody around me is slouching. I'm in an auditorium full of slouchers, hundreds of them every day, in close proximity, and they're making eye contact with me, and they're talking with me, and each other all the time, like the social apes that we are. And they're all slouching, and they're all scratching, and they're all shifting. And they're all performing cyclic, listless rounds of similar types of thinking. And so am I. They're also, to make just one momentary lapse in my doubling down, as I spoke of, I will say this. They're also absolutely supporting each other, absolutely holding each other up, absolutely showing up for each other and having each other's backs in millions of ways that I pick up on. And if I'm picking up on them being there for each other and truly reaching for better lives, one and all, often from selfless places, that million times or those millions of times, I guarantee you for every million things that I see is a universe, is a Googleplex number, an absurd number of things that I don't see or have direct contact with or access to that must be given some love. So, boom. That aside, we all make our concessions. We all make our agreements. At some point, you draw the line. Mama Chia told Dan Millman when it came to her leg and her failing health, like, perhaps if I had spent my entire life working on this one injury or working to stave off this death process, perhaps 40, 50, 60, 70 years worth of work could have afforded me a longer lifespan, and it might have been worth it. I often ask myself that, but here we are. I'm using my staff, limping along, making billy goat-like progress around this mountainous island of Molokai with you, my flat-footed Olympic athlete friend, and I'm beating your ass on these trails, and I'm dying, but I'm also living, and the only way to teach the warrior's way is to live it, to teach in the doing and the living. So even though she was slumping around with this, whatever it is, club foot or whatever, and also dying while trying to instruct a person in a modality of deep healing and giving and loving and overhaul and harmony, she was clearly of a particularly superior posture integrity than Dan Millman was at that point, with all his athletic feats and his time with Socrates. And I'm not here to compare myself to them. I'm just saying, like, or anybody else. Like, I just spoke to the virtues of these people that I'm talking about. It just so happens that I fell out of harmony. I fell out of resonance and frequency, to use all the fun words. The energy. I fell out of energetic alignment. There was an ergonomic crimp in the hose that occurred when, like a tree, I reached my crown for the sun and the stars and discovered that I was really bent the hell over. And everybody else around me was too. But I want to straighten up. But the pressure of being the guy standing up. I actually did it for a long time. Full of inertia, with no momentum, with no social momentum to build on. Maybe I just wasn't giving these folks a chance. All of them have lessons, of course. Any one of them could have been a very enriching friend or anything. I just didn't make a whole lot of friends. Certainly no close friends. But I noticed, okay, they're all slouching in some way, shape, or form, and so am I. I just want to get a little bit more upright. Just a little bit. So I did. I fought like hell. Degree by degree. Problem was, as the dissonance increased, as the energetic alignment, Jesus, as the divergences in basic agreements began to mount, and as I began verbally sectioning off acceptable being Justin with other people into smaller and smaller territories within systemic Justin land, I noticed that I was actually coming up against more and more direct confrontations. I was actually starting to piss people off with my wild thinking. Like, I totally get why people burn heretics. I feel like a goddamn heretic. Except I actually don't know the meaning of that word. I just realized. I don't know if a heretic is somebody who is actually against the human race or just a renegade. Because I like renegade. I really like renegade. I don't like heretic. But the word heresy, what's the intention behind heresy? Is it to speak a word against an established series of agreements for the betterment of other people, or with no intentional charge at all? God damn. People are getting wrecked in this town. People are getting fucked in this town, man. Whew. God damn. I live next to a fire station. I've heard more sirens out of the house than in the house. Anyway. There was really no point to what I was talking about. I just kind of really cobbled up a real soup and presented you with it. Take of that what you will. For myself, I'll just use renegade. How about that? I'm a renegade. I'm keeping the stool. I'm pretty sure that when I move, that office chair ain't coming with me. I don't even think I'm taking my bed. Like, how crazy is that? I've slept on floors before. I've achieved great rest on hard-ass floors before, if you can believe it. It's hard to believe. Granted, mostly these were my younger days, but the best experiences were actually in my adulthood. On the floor. You know, I actually did like 7 episodes of a podcast called On the Floor with Justin. And I completely forgot about that podcast. You know what I did? I took off all my clothes. I turned off all the lights. I put the webcam on, and I just showed my upper body. And I'm not ripped now, but I definitely wasn't ripped then. And I think I did 1 episode per chakra, I think. Remember on episode 12 or 13, we talked about chakras for a hot second. Good times. I forgot. I think I deleted all that. God, how many times have I considered writing a book or talking on a webcam or being anybody in the public eye? Let's just go through the campus. Yeah. This is a sexier run already. Look at this. Anyway, God bless the people at the grocery store and the pizza parlor and the restaurant. We need those people. Those are our people. I just am in a position where I took a lot of space, because when I'm around only myself, the gravity to bend my vertebrae and come out of alignment is less. I can be more of myself and play to my strengths more. Remember, we talked about strengths a few episodes ago. I talked about how it doesn't take much to get me going. And once I'm going, I can go. Clearly. Wonder how long this run's been. Let's check. Hey, we just passed an hour a little while ago. Nice. Yeah, I was kind of hoping for like an hour, 15, hour and a half. That's cool. This is wrapping up real tidy. And we could tack another hour and a half onto it. I'm not gonna. Again, I got things to do. The iron's hot on a Friday, my friends. The iron is hot. A lot of business today waiting to come to me. A lot of numbers waiting to say, hello, run man. I see that you not only run fairly slowly, you also drive fairly slowly, but not too slow to deliver food. Time to reward the thirsty pilgrim. Let it rain. Like the Tom Waits song, Make It Rain. Additional homework, if you want extra credit, if you want the Shiny Apple Polisher Award, and a personal wink, and a how-to, and a bristling of the mustache from y'all's Professor Running Man, y'all's truly. After you're done with the Game Grumps on YouTube, watching Aaron melt down, and Dan laughing his ass off at his friend, blowing up over nothing. And they are good friends. I might even call them besties. Yeah, after the Game Grumps, go on YouTube and actually go onto a paid platform and pay for the song Make It Rain by Tom Waits. I believe it's from the album Real Gone. Buy that whole album. It's good. There's a song in there about clowns. A song called, I think it's called Hoist That Rag. And I can't tell if Tom Waits is talking about the American flag, the Mexican flag, or just a flag. Because the symbology of just a flag, the thing that exists that we call a flag, that's rich fodder for lyrical inspiration. I've never really dissected that song. Maybe that's what I'll do for myself. I don't know. Anywho, we're like 5 songs deep. We're like 5 songs and 2 YouTubes, and my right hip at the front is like, what are you doing? You asshole. We have not been stretching for this. It's true. I took 2 days off and focused on the numbers coming in. And the last time that we ran, it was on a day when we did a lot of working out as well, if I remember correctly. And yesterday we worked out again. Split squats are hard.